God is talking. Subscribe.
You know how sometimes you stumble across something and it's so intriguing that you just have to, dig deeper?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what happened with these excerpts you sent over from this book, God is Talking.
God is talking.
Bold choice, right.
Yeah.
But the stuff inside this book, that's even more wild.
Oh, yeah.
It's written like a straight-up dialogue, almost like an interview between the author and... We're ready for this. God.
Well, that right there, that's a pretty big claim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, is this, literal? Is this metaphorical?
Right.
It's a technique that's been used before, though, to explore these kinds of big spiritual ideas.
And they are not shying away from the big questions in this book. I mean, first of all, the voice that's claiming to be God. It's not what you'd expect. Forget the booming pronouncements. This is more like talking to your witty friend who just happens to have cosmic knowledge.
Right, that informality, it's definitely intentional. It's like they're trying to shake things up,
Yeah.
challenge how we think about these things. I mean, some people, that might make it easier to relate to this idea of the divine, but for others,
Yeah.
it might make them question the whole thing. It's all about where you're coming from, I guess.
Which is a whole other conversation. Imagine if there was this recording and you were like, oh yeah, that's God. No question.
Right.
So the author here, in this excerpt at least, they're wrestling with that whole thing, that feeling a lot of us have. How do I connect with something bigger than myself?
Which is a universal struggle,
Yeah.
right? That search for meaning, for connection, it's something we all deal with no matter what our background is.
It's that human experience.
Yeah.
And so as the author is going through this, bam, this voice pops up, claims to be God.
Mm.
But even then the author's like, hold on, is this what it's supposed to feel like?
It makes you think about how much our expectations shape these kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
We have these ideas in our heads, right? From childhood, from our culture, about how God should sound or act.
Totally.
And then when it doesn't match up, what happens then?
You're like, wait, this is a little too casual, God. And get this, the author actually says that. And the voice is like, should I add some bells and whistles? Make this more dramatic?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this God has a sense of humor.
Apparently. But that's what's so interesting. You're like, okay, is this real? Is this not? And then they say, you have this idea God shows up only one way. That's dangerous. And they're like, full stop. If you think God looks only one way, sounds only one way, is only one way, you're going to miss me constantly.
Right, that's where the whole salami sandwich thing comes in.
Salami sandwich, yeah.
Because I've got to hear this.
Okay, so they say that if you don't see God in the everyday stuff and the really profound stuff, you're missing half the story. They're talking about a salami sandwich.
Wow. So the divine is in the deli meat aisle now.
It makes you think, are we making this whole God thing too complicated? Maybe instead of looking for something out there, it's more about
looking in.
the small things, yeah.
Interesting. So we've got a God who appreciates a good sandwich. But, this excerpt, it doesn't just stop at casual conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It really digs into some tougher questions, too. What really stood out for you in that section? Where they're talking about how we try to put God in a box, with a certain look or sound.
Right.
That got me thinking.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's we can't help ourselves.
It's so true, though. You immediately picture, what, an old dude with a beard.
Exactly. We try to make this infinite being something we can get our heads around.
And that's where we get into trouble.
Totally. And then they go even further, talking about good versus evil. Did you see that part about Hitler going to heaven?
Okay, I have to admit, that one threw me for a loop. You don't hear that every day, do you?
Talk about a conversation starter.
Seriously, what do you make of that? I mean, for a lot of people, that's just going to be a hard no.
It's provocative, for sure.
It makes you think, though.
Right. Is it about forgiveness? Or maybe are they saying, look, we judge too much, even in death?
It's deep. Another thing that really struck me was how much this God emphasizes, just going out and having your own experience, not just relying on dogma.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of organized religions.
Don't take my word for it, vibes.
Right. But at the same time, it's they're tapping into this ancient wisdom.
What's that?
That real spirituality, it's about what you experience directly, not just what someone tells you to believe.
Yeah, go figure it out for yourself.
Exactly.
Which honestly can be kind of freeing, you're in charge of your own journey.
For sure. And they even go there with the taboo stuff, like sex and money.
Oh, yeah, those topics that make everyone squirm.
Right. Especially in a religious context.
But here, it's they're saying, hey, these things are part of life. Let's not pretend otherwise.
Let's explore them.
Yeah, and see what we can learn.
Exactly. So it makes you think, if this God isn't demanding obedience, What do they want?
Good question. What are they saying?
Well, they spell it out. Self-knowledge, helping others on their journey, and making life joyful.
Okay, so not just sitting around worshiping, but actually living.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Living fully, creating, helping others.
Wow. That almost takes the pressure off,
Right. It's not about being good enough.
It's about being real and finding joy.
Exactly. Which, I gotta ask, if that's the message, why all the secrecy?
Right. Why not shout it from the mountains?
Speaking of secrets, what about that cliffhanger at the end? The 5 attitudes of godliness.
And then poof, they're gone. No explanation.
Got us on the hook.
Like, come back next week, folks. But before we move on to that, we've got to talk about the whole Bible discussion.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
Because they don't exactly shy away from that one either. They really go there with the Bible, don't they? It's like they respect it, but
there's more to the story.
yeah. Like, remember how they were saying even the most profound stuff written by people who were just trying to, like, process things, tell their stories.
And over time, things change, don't they?
Oh, big time. They even talk about how certain stories, they got picked over others,
Shaped to fit an agenda.
Makes you wonder what got left out.
Right. What didn't make the cut.
Like they mentioned this whole high council thing.
Oh, yeah, deciding what's safe for people to know.
Right, it's like that game, Telephone. By the end, who knows what the original message even was?
Totally, and that's the point, isn't it? Power, it shapes the narrative. Even when it comes to these, like, sacred texts.
And here's this God figure basically saying, don't take anything at face value. Question it.
Bold move.
Right, like, this is about me, supposedly, and I'm telling you to be skeptical. But then it gets even better. The author's like, so could these conversations, could they be scripture someday?
Ooh, what'd they say to that?
Because God doesn't say no. They're like, well, the vibe is a little casual for how people think I sound.
Right.
A little too of the people.
Maybe swap out the slang for something a little more biblical.
Exactly. But then they get to the heart of it. Why are we limiting how God can talk in the first place? Like, who are we to say what's the right way?
It's that thing again, trying to squeeze this infinite being into our tiny understanding of the world.
Like, we've got it all figured out.
And in doing that, maybe we miss the point entirely.
We miss the message because we're looking for the wrong messenger.
Like they were saying earlier, maybe we're the ones blocking the connection.
Oh, that whole worthiness thing.
Because deep down, we don't think we're good enough.
The author's like, am I even allowed to be having this conversation? And this God is basically like, why not you?
It's like they're saying you are worthy of this connection, of this love, just as you are.
Powerful stuff. And it makes you think about prayer differently, too.
How so?
Well, we can get stuck in that mindset, like sending a message out into the void.
Hoping for a response.
Right. And if we don't get it, well, then maybe God's just not listening. Or maybe I did something wrong. But this God, they say, I am performing a miracle right now. For not only am I speaking to you, but to every person who has picked up this book and is reading these words.
It's like they're speaking to us right now.
Right here, right now. This is the miracle.
Wow, this whole deep dive has really shifted something for me, I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's less about finding the right answers, more about just staying open to the questions,
Totally. And being open to the possibility that, like, hey, maybe there are things we just can't explain, and that's okay.
Yeah, more than okay. It's exciting. It keeps things interesting. Right.
Exactly. That's what these deep dives are all about. We don't have all the answers, but hopefully we've given you some stuff to chew on.
Keep those conversations going. Keep exploring. Keep digging for your own truth.
And who knows, maybe you'll find yourself talking to God in a deli aisle someday. You never know.
Eyes anoint you, starlight. 想把点出的